438 WPRO, toll free 1-800-321-WPRO. Email me at dan@630wpro.com. So we're looking for creative ways to kind of celebrate and identify the modern thoughts on MLK Day. And Lexi was able to find the folks at the Gordon School, the Gordon School, by the way, is a private K-8 education facility here in the region, and they have an annual teach-in, and they actually take these trips to the South to teach the young people, the 8th graders, about the civil rights movement. They have a video, and the narration on it's only a few minutes. Let me play it, then we'll introduce you to the middle school director of the Gordon School and one of their students who learned a lot last year.
Over 15 years ago, I was down in Birmingham at a school conference with the then middle school division director, Harry Finks, and we were touring a civil rights museum and walking the streets of Birmingham. And Harry said, kids need to see this. And we thought long and hard about a way that we could bring kids to the South to actually experience the history that they've been studying about. The civil rights curriculum was a part of the 8th grade experience for a long time. And we thought about how can we make this history come alive for kids.
Kind of two things we do on the trip. One is to meet with the people from the past who, were involved in the Montgomery bus boycott or who were at Bloody Sunday at the end of Pettus Bridge in 1965. The other thing that we do is we meet with the present people who are doing social justice work today to kind of link the stories from Selma and Montgomery and Birmingham, Alabama to social activism today.
The civil rights trip, what it really allows kids to see is that you don't have to be a Rosa Parks. You don't have to be an MLK. You don't have to do something amazing and have lots of followers behind you. They meet the people who are just regular people just like them. People who are lawyers, people who are pastors, people who were just living in a particular town that was a part of this history, and they can see that they've got it within themselves to make a change and use what they know and what they're able to do to impact society.
All right, so that's a little flavor of what this project is all about. The Newsmaker line we go. Lynn Bowman is the middle school director and advisor at the Gordon School. Lynn, Dan Yorke, how are you?
Great, Dan. Thanks for having us on.
You bet. Happy MLK Day. And we're also going to bring on Gianna Paratore, who's now a freshman at Moses Brown, who I guess last year enjoyed the trip to the South. Gianna, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having us.
Very well. Somehow we cut off the middle school director there, guys. So we got to conference this up. So while I have Gianna on the line and I don't have Lynn, let's talk to Gianna. Gianna, so you're a freshman at Moses Brown. You went on the trip last year. What did you learn?
I learned a lot about how the civil rights movement has impacted societies like still living there today. And I also learned a lot about how intense some of the actions and movements that took place down there really were.
So tell me about that. Tell me about those actions and movements.
One of the biggest ones we learned about, we went to this museum right outside of Atlanta called the Center for Civil and Human Rights, and there's a simulator on the first floor of the museum. You sit down, and it transports you to a sit-in like the ones that took place in cafes across the country. Mm-hmm. And you can hear glass shattering and people yelling nasty threats at you, and it was very scary. And so learning just how crazy those experiences were for people and how hard it must have been for them to stay peaceful was very impactful.
Yeah, it seems like it. Lynn, are you back with me?
I am. Sorry, I lost you.
Yeah, no problem. Tell me about the history of taking these trips and why you think it's important to bring kids down there.
Yeah, well, I think that one thing at Gordon that's really, I think, important and central to our mission is connecting students, connecting the curriculum to the outside world, to the world that they live in today. And we know that in particular for middle schoolers, that kind of experiential learning is really, really powerful and important, like Gianna said. So it's really our goal, and this trip has been going on since 2000, and every eighth grader takes this trip. We go to Montgomery, Selma, Birmingham, Atlanta, and I think that the important piece is for young people to understand as early as they can that history connects with today, and to really understand that what we have here today is a lot of the residual stuff that's been going on for a long time. And it's our responsibility, I think, to educate kids and young people in ways to manage, navigate, change their world.
So the Gordon School is a private school. How big is it, by the way?
We have about 380 students.
All right. So an eighth grade class would be how many kids?
The graduating class this year is our largest. We're at 47.
And it's a diverse group, right?
Yes, it's diverse.
In the sense, is there a mix of white, black, Hispanic, Latino? Tell me what the faces look like.
There isn't the kind of mix that you may see in a public school, but we have about 35% students of color in our school, and that varies in terms of grade to grade. But we do strive for diversity in our student body, and our parent community, faculty and staff, as well as on our board.
This diversity concept. People's eyes roll. Some people have their eyes roll over. I don't know, probably preconceived notions as to what it means. And I would probably suggest that diversity might mean all sorts of different things depending on the context and the environment that discussion takes place. What does diversity mean in a school K through 8, and why is a trip like this such a necessary part of the curriculum?
Well, Dan, here's what we know, that education in a classroom is about sharing experiences, that best practice, that the best kind of education that a child could receive isn't one that has where people have their blinders on, but it's one where children, adults, people in the community are exposed to a lot of different experiences and perspectives. That's what we know. That's what real academic rigor is and academic excellence is. And so whether that's diversity with race, economic, life experience, all of that, that kind of mixing in a classroom, when whether you're reading Romeo and Juliet or you are listening to the I Have a Dream speech, those different perspectives and insights are going to bring a lot more to that conversation if you have a lot of different kids from different experiences and backgrounds sitting around the table.
What if
you give them tools to talk to each other.
Got it. We'll ask Gianna the same question, but let me ask the director. We're talking with Lynn Bowman, a middle school director and sixth grade advisor at the Gordon School, who facilitates this trip to the South for civil rights experiential learning. Well, what's a 14-year-old kid really digest over a trip like this?
That's a great question. So on something like this,
well, Gianna, you jumped in. Hold on, I'm going to get to you in a second. But Lynn, what do you think a 14-year-old kid is actually digesting?
Well, I think that they're thinking about, particularly when they're down there. I think that they're learning that there are life experiences that are different from their own, and I think that is really key when we start talking about people having empathy for others and really connecting to each other and being able to collaborate and learn from each other. And so I think that they begin to learn that their own lived experience or someone else's lived experience can be very, very different. And because of that, their perspectives are different, their ideas may be different, but they also have value. And so I hope that when we take kids down there, that's one thing that they see. I think they also begin to see the connections as we're walking through cities, that some of them that look very much like they looked in the history books that they're reading, that they see that they make that connection between history and current day.
Gianna, what does a 14-year-old kid really learn when they're on a trip like this?
I think Ms. Bowman said it great. I think that we really are able to learn a sense of empathy because we can see how an event like Bloody Sunday or others of the same nature have affected communities around them. And we really get to see the places where history has taken root and see how that's affected their lives today.
What do you think the rest of the kids, tell me, what was the conversation amongst the students over the course? How long is this trip, by the way, Lynn? Is it a week? Or?
It's 4 days.
Right.
It's a quick trip.
So over 4 days, Gianna, what was the chatter amongst your peers? You still with me, Gianna?
Yes, I'm here.
Gianna, what were the kids talking about on a trip like this, and what were you sharing, informally between each other?
I think it was just the awe of just seeing places we had read about and seeing places we had heard about and talked about, and then realizing that they're not just words on a page, that they're really real places with real people was kind of impressive and interesting to see for most of us.
I think, Dan, if I could jump in here, too,
sure.
One of the most important things about a trip like this is the kind of preparation that happens before. So 8th graders are studying the civil rights movement for about 6 weeks before they go. They're also meeting once a week with the adults who will chaperone the trip, and they're processing what they're learning and having those kinds of conversations. And then once we go, as we're traveling to the different sites and we're meeting different people, there's always opportunity for kids to process, to ask questions. And that's, again, a skill that they've been practicing and learning, not just in 8th grade, but all the way through Gordon. So that I think that they are so primed and ready to be open, to listen, and maybe shift in their thinking for some of them.
We don't have a lot of this kind of teaching in the mainstream public schools, do we?
I think that you'll find it in a lot of different places, Dan. I think that there are teachers and people in all different kinds of schools who are trying to make learning relevant for kids.
Sure. Okay, diplomatically said. I'm just wondering, how much intimate civil rights history is actually taught across the board. I mean, obviously the kids at Gordon School have a break in with this terrific curriculum, and it changes their lives, and it'll impact how they think about all sorts of things as they grow up, no doubt.
Yeah.
And what resonates at a 13 or 14 year level, and what they think about it when they're 25 probably will be exponentially different. But unfortunately, I don't think we have enough focus on that, which, I mean, a lot of people are going by MLK Day today thinking it's a ski trip day, and I think it's something we really ought to be talking about.
Yeah. Well, and I think that we certainly have a privilege at Gordon of being able to give our students this really important and valuable opportunity. And the goal is that when they graduate and go on to their high schools or colleges or become leaders in their own fields or professions, that they would look back and understand, then play it forward. To use that phrase, that they have an obligation and a responsibility to use their privilege in a way that is going to bring people together.
Gianna, let me ask you one last question. I mean, what do you think about on MLK Day now that you've made that trip?
I think it definitely holds more meaning to me now than it did when I was younger and before I had gone on this trip, because I was able to see just how much effort and work was put into reaching the community and society we have today. And so MLK Day is a celebration of that hard work and saying, we have achieved something that is a lot better than what we had done before. And I think it's an important day for us all to stop and think about what has happened to get us to where we are today.
Good for you. You're growing up fast, Gianna. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Lynn Bowman, the director of the Gordon Middle School and the middle school director, and Gianna Paratore, now a grown-up freshman at Moses Brown who last year took that trip. Fascinating. 421.